Hi, my name is Ken Page. I've been doing this for about 35 years, and this is metaphysics. I learned the hardest way you could, and that's by experiencing it. Back in 1986, I had a tremendous amount of stress. I had many different businesses, and there was floods, and there was all kinds of stress. So I went to a hypnotherapist. A friend of mine had told me about him because they were losing weight. And when I met Fred, it was a very small town right next to mine in Clear Lake. And he said, I'm going to hypnotize you. And he talked about it. And basically, he put me in an altered state, basically allowing me to relax. Then something happened to me. This never happened to him. And of course, never happened to me. As he put me back, all of a sudden, there was the brightest light I've ever seen. Now, remember, I'm not metaphysical. I'm a businessman. I'm very practical. When things are so strange that I don't understand, I don't do them. All of a sudden, I'm looking at the Grim Reaper, a very tall, black being standing in front of me, and this light behind him. And it scared me so bad, I jumped up off the couch and ran out, jumped in my Jeep, and left. Okay, it really did scare me. It took me about 2 weeks before I came back, because then, in 2 weeks you're thinking, where in the heck did that come from? The only thing I know for sure is two of the closest relatives had died in '82, and another one died in '84, and I was very, very upset about death. Okay, because it doesn't matter if you're rich, it doesn't matter what you have, you can't do anything about death. Okay, it's the most and you all know that's the most helpless feeling or loss that you can have. So I went back to Fred, and I was a little bit worried. Okay, so he put me in again and went into an altered state, and all of a sudden there was a light. There was the Grim Reaper standing right there, and this voice internally said, walk around him. And this is where you don't know the rules, okay? All I had to do was walk around him. So I just walked around him, and there was the light. And I walked into the light, and I saw something very, very spiritual. I made that connection with the sun. I made that connection inside myself, and I saw it for the first time. Then I started going back to Fred, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to learn about hypnosis. So I would sit in his sessions with people, and I sat in maybe 240, 300 sessions, okay? And what he did, he would ask questions, and he would take people back, and he would take people back in their mind to where they had a traumatic experience. And then he had them relive the experience. And I started realizing this isn't good, because we're re-traumatizing a person with something that happened to them in some other time or some other space or some other place, and we're re-traumatizing the physical body today with the trauma that memory had. And you got to remember, all memories come from many different places. Certainly they come from us and our background. Do they come from our mother and father? Do they come from our mother and father, their mother and father? Do they come from our DNA? Do they come from where we came from? Are there memories? Are there feelings? And there's 5 things that have happened to everyone in history. In history, there are 5 things. And there's probably many more than 5, but I can only handle 5, okay? They're all the dynamics of war. So just think about it. If you were in war, whether you were the person who was taking over, or whether you were fighting, or whether you lost, or whether there were people gone, and remember, there's not much food, there's all kinds of rules. It's really, really a hard time, if not. And then many, many people died in war in history. Then there's sickness. There have been many, many terrible, terrible, terrible diseases that wiped out. In Europe, it wiped out 40% of all the people. And then there's all kinds of viruses and all kinds of flus and all kinds of things that killed many people. And then there's hunger. And hunger is really, really something that's happened to many, many generations. A storm or bad weather, your crops, things lost. You couldn't feed yourself, you couldn't feed your family, and they died. And then there's disasters. And you and I know there's some terrible, terrible disasters we see on television. But remember, a long time ago in history, there was no one to call for help, okay? It was your family, and that was it. So you couldn't call the government, you couldn't call the fire department, you couldn't call anyone. If a disaster happened and you were wiped out, you were gone, okay? And then there's religion. Remember, many, many religions ended up being a government. They ended up taxing people. They ended up telling people how to think. They ended up telling people what to do. They ended up being a government. They were run like a government was. They needed the money. So those are the 5 things. What I'm saying to you, each one of you, and I don't care where you are, I don't care who you are, I don't care how much money you have, one of those things or more happened to you in the past with your DNA, your family. Now the question is there a memory of that? If all of a sudden we go into survival, and survival is one of the worst things you can go into, because at that point, you're completely cut off from your higher self, because you don't have time to connect to that. You don't have time, space to make that connection, to feel good. You're in survival. You're trying to stay alive. You're trying to do the things to keep you going, or your family keep you going. And survival is when you get into survival, it's like quicksand. It keeps taking you deeper and deeper into this state, okay? So what happened as I watched Fred, he worked, and all of a sudden I started to realize, and this was after I went on a trip to Drumlo back down into the Yucatan. This is just as I started my path. Okay, this is back in 1986, and he and I went down there, and all of a sudden my hands started to really feel and sense. So I became more sensitive. On this one pyramid, I know what it sounds like, and I was climbing up the pyramid with Drumlo, if you know, another spiritual teacher, and this wind went around me. It was going so fast. It was like caught in a little mini burst of tornado. I was hanging on to these trees, and all of a sudden it left, and I was changed. And so when I went back to Fred and his group, we were doing work, and all of a sudden I realized that I could scan. Now, scanning, and I'm going to teach you about this. What I'm going to teach and share with each one of you is I'm going to do this for 52 weeks, okay? I'm going to do an hour a week, and I'm going to live stream, and you can look at it. I'm going to refer to different things that you need to study and learn, because after that, you should have what it takes to be a healthy healer, or to be healthy with yourself, or to be healthy with your family. Now, what happened with Fred is I would scan the person, meaning the person was laying down, and I would just scan my hand over it. All of a sudden, I'd feel some kind of energy. I say, Fred, go right there. When Fred accessed that part of their belly or their chest or their neck or their arm, whatever place it was, they would come up with a complete story. But this wasn't just a story. This was one that encompassed all the other patterns. This was the strongest pattern, emotionally, energetically, coming out of that person. A really big deal. So I did this again for another 100 sessions, and I would say, look right there, look right there, and we would find the traumatizing experience that started it all up. See, and many times you can look at an event and you're trying to find what caused it. What was the initial one that caused all these others? And it's like peeling back an onion. You just keep going. But what if you could go right to the event that caused all these others. Then they all go back and forth. They all undo, they all unravel into the picture. So one day, this man come in and he was having, he had cancer, and he had just gone to the doctor, and he had cancer in his stomach, and he wanted to know if Fred could help him, and there was about 5 or 6 people in the room. We were kind of watching it, and I scanned it, and yes, there was a hot spot on his belly, and I said that. Look right there. And so Fred started working. Now, this is honest God truth, my truth, okay? He started working on it. All of a sudden, physically, a red ball came out of this man's stomach. It was about that big and hovered over him about 2 or 3 feet. And everybody saw it in the room. Everybody, and we were not always metaphysical. Everyone saw it, and then it went out of the room, gone. And we all said, "Did you see that?" Yes. So he went ahead and finished whatever Fred was doing at the time. And then I went back to work. I was working a regular job. About 2 days later, I get a phone call from this man, and he says, "I want to thank you for what you did." And I said, "I was just watching what I do." He said, "My cancer's gone." So he had gone back to the doctor. They had retested him, and they could not find any cancer. Now you think I would be, well, I was shocked, okay? Can we make a difference? Can we as healers, or we as helpers, or we as whatever we call ourselves, can we make a difference? And the other thing that I worried about afterwards is, where in the heck did that red ball go? Now this is a really big deal, because if I could heal somebody, if I could help to facilitate that they changed, but that change went out and went down the street, and some poor guy who had been smoking and who had all the vibrations that cancer could be attracted to went into them. Was that a possibility? Well, I sure thought about it for many, many, many days. And this is the kind of thing that you learn, or you start to experience, that you wonder, do you really want to know? So I'm telling you something right now. On the first show, it might take years, but this is the part you have to understand. In many healing techniques, people have got badly hurt or scared to death because, yes, they did Reiki or they did energy work, and yes, they are a master, and all of a sudden they got into some type of energy that was way, way past their experience or their ability to handle, and it scared the death out of them, and they stopped doing healing work. You can ask any Reiki person. Yes, there are many different ones that have lasted many years, but the majority, when I say majority, I say 75, 85%, they only lasted 3 years before they got into something, or they picked something up internally, or they passed it on to their family, and they stopped doing it. These are the things I want to share with you, and I want to show you how to do it, but not to pick up the energetics of it. Now, what I need from you is I need you to tell your friends. I have 25 different videos on YouTube that last about 10 minutes. If you looked at every one of those and you read the way it works, you would know so much. But when you look at many of them, we only have a few people who looked at them. Is it that they know it? Is it that they don't think it's important? What is that? But if you could tell your friends or people who are interested in healing to look at this, I would appreciate it, because I would just like to share. I don't want anything from you, but I do not want to see the terrible things that are happening to my friends who are out there doing healing work or out there doing presentations, and all of a sudden got themselves into the worst type of cancers, the worst type of energy, and it killed them. And I'm talking about a lot of, or they stopped working. Now, what happened with that time with cancer ended up changing into a different kind of way that I work now. And that's called the art of transference. Now, I still have to go back to the basics, okay? But I want you just to know that when you learn something, that's just a way for you to be open to another reality. So what's spirituality all about? It's about ourself and allowing ourself to be more open to the higher or more creative parts of ourself. It's a force. It's a life force. Sometimes Nancy and I will see 150 people, and we're in an altered state for sometimes 10, 12 hours for 4, 6 weeks. Okay. You change. I don't care what you say, you change because you can become more aware, you become more tuned, you start to become, your senses are keener. If you're doing being in your pineal, which that's part of the 4 clearing techniques, it allows you to pick up subtle senses. And with that subtle senses, it's a whole knowing. It's a knowing. You've got to get this. It's a knowing. This is what metaphysics is all about. It's an internal knowing that you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place. Now, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice, okay? A little one, but it can change your life forever. I want you to ask for your spiritual experiences to be manifested in a physical way so you can understand what's happening. Now, is that a very simple thing? Yes, but then that means you have to be aware. So I have things going on with me right now. I'm asking my spiritual knowing of what's to manifest in a physical way so I can understand what's happening, where I am, because now I'm a part of my spiritual awakening or my understanding. Does that make sense to you? But you have to then really, really pay attention because it could be very subtle. And if your higher self gives you something physically that explains what's going on, let's say you're trying to learn about power and control or whatever it is, if there's a dynamics with us evolving, whatever that is, and all of a sudden you've asked for it, and all of a sudden next day somebody starts to push you and push you in your face about power and control, then you just start to look at it. Then you can say, oh my gosh, I know what that issue is. I don't need to give it any energy, but I can see how that plays out and how I have to look at what I haven't understood. Very, very important. Now let's go back to the beginning again. In those YouTubes that are on the website now, it really is a must that you look at them and tell your friends because it covers every single area in the way it works. Now we've given the way it works out. We just finished that book again. This is the old book, and we just finished a new book of the way it works and redid everything because this was done back in '95. So we redid everything. We put different things that you should do and ways to do them. We give you every single clue that we could give you. Plus, we told you about the hidden side of the void, the dark night of the soul. And we're going to explain that, but not today, because if you did not do the basics, you would not get it. And that's the challenge. So many people are so busy, they want to get right to the end and not understand. But every time you understand, it brings a different awareness. Then you get a little piece of information, a different awareness, then a different awareness. And awareness keeps changing. How fast does it change? It changes every single day. But then sometimes you wake up and you wonder, who am I? Because your awareness just changed. It's like you're used to a 13-inch TV, your awareness, and all of a sudden it becomes a 19-inch TV. Can you go back? But what you can do is you can look where the 19-inch, where the 13-inch and the 19-inch, that space is awareness, and that you can start to see things, understand things, why this happened. You don't feel a victim by it. See, one of the things, being a healer or being in metaphysics or trying to help people, is you can't help your family. Yes, maybe you can do one or two, but in most cases, they only think of you as you were in the past, or they think of you, whatever it is. They're afraid. They don't want to look at it. Right now, I'm serious. I lost 3 kids because of metaphysics, because they thought I was crazy, which probably am. Why would I say that? Well, compared to the rest of the world, I assume they would all say I was crazy. Is that correct? Every single religion in the world, every single Bible, everything they teach, and most metaphysical people would not agree with me. So, are you a minority? Yes, in some ways. What does that mean? It means that I'm probably 0.0000001% of the population of the planet. So is that sometimes, do I feel alone? See, I'm not lonely, but do you get invited to many parties when you know what people are thinking, when you can sense that they're lying, you can sense different things, and they know you can? No, it's too bad, because I can dance, I can have fun, I don't have to do that. See, right now what happens is we can't teach anything to most people, because most people are afraid. They don't want to know anything different, because if they learn something, they have to change. And sometimes, if you do not change on your own, you change sometimes being sick or getting hurt or getting something that makes you stop doing what you're doing and take some time. And that's not a good thing to do, okay? It's easier to subtly change and to be aware and to keep moving and to keep understanding. But one thing that most people don't understand, this is about ourself. The more I understand myself, the more I allow myself to be all I can be, the more I can help individuals. Now you say, how? Okay, think about this. Very, very simple. Think about this. Here's somebody I'm helping. If I could connect with them in such a way, no judgment, no projections on them, meet them exactly where they are, we create a third vibration, a lighter vibration of each other. At that point, they find that vibration within themselves. That is a lighter vibration of themselves. That means they're not as reactive. Now, many of these things I've already written about. So everything I'm teaching you or I'm sharing with you right now is on our website, kenpage.com. We have over 18 years worth of newsletters every single month about every single subject there is. There is not one subject I have not addressed. And you just go on our website, you go right to the top, you Google, you ask what you want to look for, and there it comes up, all the newsletters. And it's only like 1 page, 2 pages, but it's about what we're talking about. It's why we come to that conclusion. It's what to do if you have that kind of challenge. So the information is there. Now, I think that the biggest question for all of us as we start our path, and the reason I'm going through this right now is because in the next 52 weeks, I'm going to get more and more complicated, but I need you to ask questions. What didn't you understand? What would you like to hear more of the things we're talking about? Okay, because we don't need to talk about something else I haven't set the groundwork for or the understanding of. So if you'll go ahead and email that to us, next time I do a talk, I will try to address those. But try to keep it simple and try to be precise and try to keep it to what we're talking about. And please don't write paragraph and paragraph. Just write what you want to know, okay? Just as simple as you can, okay? Because I don't need to take a whole hour trying to explain that one thing, okay? What I can do is I can send you the newsletters, which have a lot of information, and we can talk about it from the newsletters. I can use that as a base and then make it easier, okay? You will get more. And remember, and again, it's my belief people do not want more, okay? Because in a way, if you change, then the people around you will feel they changed and there's going to be a problem. How much can you change? How much are you interconnected? How much are you looping or connected with them in some ways? And this goes back to the whole thing about, are we evolving? So physically, did I pick my parents? And I wrote about this. I did this in one of the YouTubes. It was about 10 minutes, and you can go through all that. But did I pick my parents? Did I pick them because he was from World War II, and my mother was a very strong Catholic and from Italy? And did I pick them because they were strong? Because I needed to understand about power and control. I needed to understand about the things I needed to do. And think about that. Whatever my issue was that I didn't understand previously, wherever previous was, whether it was in my life or whether it was in my mother's womb, remember 9 months, I picked up every emotion, I picked every feeling, I picked up every idea, I picked up everything from my father. I had a complete energetic understanding. And then their parents and their parents. And remember, traumas are where we get in trouble because it's like a crash of emotions. How many emotions can we take and understand? Some emotions are so big, such as death and these things, where we couldn't even possibly understand anymore. But just think of it as a bad car accident with 5 cars hitting with emotions, and it gets frozen in time. And we're going to talk more about that because this is a big deal. Because if you realize you're built to keep attracting to you what you came in to learn, otherwise we wouldn't evolve. Otherwise you get so scared or so tired of looking at the same thing over and over and over, you'd hide in your closet. You wouldn't come out. You wouldn't evolve. You would stop. And are there people who do that? Yes, but then they learn in a different way. Okay, so you go hide in your closet and you don't want to see anyone, and then a mouse comes in. Oh, you're scared of mice. Well, okay, that's a tough way, right? So you don't need to learn that way either. Okay, you need to understand. But the main thing is you need to know what your issues are. So I know what my issues are. I have abandonment issues. Okay, I don't really care very much for bullies. Okay, I don't like people telling me what to do. Okay, I have all these different things that have not felt good over my life that I watch very carefully in my relationships, or I watch very carefully with the people I work with or I'm around. Okay, does that make sense to you? But yet we keep attracting them to us. Because why do we attract them? Because there they are. My issue is right in my face, and I'm now looking at it. I can't get away. I can't stop. They're mirroring exactly what I have to look at. And that's how we evolve. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it.
Okay, your screen's going to go black, so you're going to end up looking